Greetings, brothers. Happy New Year, and welcome to basically a quick video where we're going to look at all the new stuff that they've announced that's coming in January, some of the exciting new changes that we might need to know about, and just to let you know that I will be doing videos and covering all this content. So if you have any requests or anything you specifically want to see, then drop it in the comments. Now, let's get straight into the content. Okay, so yesterday, 1st of January, they posted up that there is a new Arks of Omen book coming out. This is a narrative book. The first book focuses on Abaddon. This will be able to pre-order both in regular and in like special edition. I believe this Saturday, so that's going to be Saturday the 7th. Typically, these books and stuff go on sale at 10 AM UK time. And if you are thinking of buying any of these, you can always use my link for Element Games, which is in the video description. And if you buy any on Element Games, then that does help support the channel, and I'm super appreciative of that. So, I mean, you usually get like 10%, 15%, sometimes even 20% off on Element Games. So I'll be using that. Anyone that does that, it would be much appreciated. Link will be in the video description. So the Abaddon book is going to come with some rules for boarding actions, which is basically the new thing that we're going to talk about in a minute. That is basically it's almost like Space Hulk style. So boarding actions is essentially, I think they said what it is on the other website tab, which we're going to come to in a second. But it's a board's worth of spaceship terrain, which features content such as the boarding action terrain set. This set features 2 double-sided gaming tables, 6 to 8 pieces of massive modular terrain, I guess, and this lets you use the boarding actions from the Arks of Omen series. So if you want to do boarding actions, you will need this Arks of Omen book. It will not essentially be needed, however, for like competitive play. I mean, maybe you want to play boarding actions competitively, but I think boarding actions to me feels more like a mini game. It reminds me a lot of Kill Team or Necromunda, and I think it will be fun. I really want to pick it up, but you don't need it if you want to do competitive. Now, what I've heard is that this Abaddon book will be about £35, Great Britain, and typically these collector's editions are about £10 more. And I've got the collector's edition of the Blood Angels one. Beyond having like a fancy cover and like one of those string bookmarks, there's not a whole lot of difference, I think. So get the collector's edition if you want to, but I'm not sure it's needed. I like my collector's edition Blood Angels one. But I mean, I guess it's just maybe for your own faction, or maybe if you're really into Abaddon, you want to spend the extra $10. Up to you. Anyway, the boarding action terrain, I've been told, is going to cost £130 Great Britain. So if you are buying that, you're definitely going to want that off a reseller here in the UK, because that should drop the price down to maybe even as low as £100. So that's a big saving. So definitely, if you want this, I want this actually, so maybe Element Games will be the place for getting it. I might have to wait till the end of the month to order it. Anyway, next up, what's also on sale is going to be Chapter Approved, and this is the redone new season of Chapter Approved. This will last for 6 months. I believe this is coming out, so you're pre-ordering it on the 7th, you're getting it on the 14th, so this will probably last us through to probably like July the 14th, something like that. So the first half of the year. It's got a new detachment, which I'm going to show you in a second, which is going to change everything. And although the rumors say that the reason for this new detachment is basically they're going to let you do almost whatever the hell you want for 6 months as we move into 10th edition. Now, no one's confirmed 10th edition, but it does feel like for a while they were really against what we call soup armies, which is armies of multiple factions using the strengths of all of them. They really try to take that away. Either they're bringing it back or it's the end of the edition. I don't know. But the Arks of Omen the Arks of Omen Grand Tournament Chapter Approved book will be $17.50. So that is cheaper than it was before, because now it only has like missions and secondaries and the basic rules. Hopefully they kept basic rules in it. I liked it a lot that they put the basic rules in the last edition, because I think 2 Chapter Approved ago we didn't get the rules, and it was a pain in the arse to carry another book around for the rule books. I like having as few books as possible. Anyway, Chapter Approved, $17.50, and then the points are going to be digital. We know the points are digital. I imagine the points are probably going to release on the 14th with this book, but I can't find any information on that. If anyone knows, you can leave me a comment down below. They also said that there's going to be the 4 new battle forces, the Space Marine battle forces. There's an Ultramarines one, there's a White Scars one, there's a Iron Hands one, and a Salamanders one. And while these are all Primaris units, which are not in a great state, the rumours that are flying around right now is that Space Marines are going to lose Armour of Contempt, And to make up for that, because that's going to be a big deal, losing armor contempt is going to be huge, it's going to hurt Space Marines a lot. Space Marines are going to get a giant points drop. And some of the points drops I've heard are like Plasma Inceptors are going to go down 33%, so from 60 to 40. I've also heard Aggressors are going to go down 33%, so from 45 to 30. I've heard there's rumours about free war gear. As soon as I know something, or as soon as I see chapter approved, we can cover that and we can dive into it. It's an exciting time. Hopefully it's going to shake up the meta for Space Marines. Like, the thing that I've been complaining with Blood Angels is literally you want to run Death Company or Sanguinary Guard and that's it. Well, those units, if they don't have Armour of Contempt, those units are both going to get quite a bit weaker. I imagine if they don't change the points cost on them, that is essentially a nerf to those units because they're less survivable and they've stayed the same points. So a lot of other things might be coming in. Another thing I heard was Blade Guard Veterans are going from 35 to 30. So if Blade Guard Veterans do go from 35 to 30, that means they're the same points as a Sanguinary Guard. They have the same 2-up save. They have a 4-up invulnerable save that Sanguinary Guard don't have, and they have an extra wound, and they can be transhumaned. They basically have the same sword, because theirs is a Mastercrafted Power Sword, which is the exact same profile as the Carmite Sword. And they have I guess they have a worse gun than the Sangard. But still, Blade Guard in combat, a 5-man Blade Guard squad actually gets more attacks than a 5-man Sanguinary Guard squad on the charge because you've got a sergeant there, and you can do cool things with a sergeant. Like you can have a quick bolts, or you can give them a relic or something like that, right? So, or it's not a relic; it's special issue war gear is what you can give them. But anyway, so there's the 4 new battle boxes. There's the Arks of Omen book, and then there's a boarding terrain. So January is going to be an expensive month. I think boarding terrain will be really cool. I like Space Hulk. I've always liked it. But I think if this is... Well, do you know what? We'll cover the board. We're going to look at the Arks of Omen stuff first, and then we'll look at a quick boarding party. So they shared this new detachment, and this is your Arks of Omen detachment. This is going to cost you 0 CP. Restrictions: all units must be from the same faction. That faction cannot be Imperium, Chaos, Aldari, or Tyranids. This detachment cannot include any understrength units, and it costs 0 CP. You need 1 HQ, and then you pick 3 troops, 3 elites, 3 fast attacks, 3 heavy support, or 3 Lords of War. So this gives you flexibility for armies that maybe don't want troops. And then I guess from that, you can then add, more troops, more elites, more HQs. This is 4 HQs in this detachment. I actually didn't realize that until right now. I'm like looking at it and I was like, wow, okay, so we've got an extra HQ slot as opposed, like if you were using a battalion, you have 3 HQs. This is a 4 HQ detachment. Interesting, I never noticed that. Your elite characters, so like your Sangor Ancient, I guess your Blade Guard Ancient, any Ancient, I guess, the Judiciar, an Apothecary, a Company Champion, anything that is an elite character is now going to go in its own slot, meaning you can still take 6 elites. So if you want to stick with 3 Death Company, and 3 Sanguinary Guard, and a Sangor Ancient, and a Judiciar, you could do that. You could totally do that. So that's cool. So there's a bit more flexibility in Blood Angels. As it stands, we don't know exactly all the ins and outs of this detachment, because obviously all we've seen is this one page. But like in my head, on my theory crafting, I'm instantly thinking maybe I'm just going to do 2 troop choices from now on. I'll obviously do 6 elites, because Blood Angels elites, you always seem to have 6. But I'll do 6 elites, and I'll probably do 2 troop choices. Maybe like 1 squad of Incursors for forward, and 1 squad of Infiltrators for defensive. And that might just be me, because I do think OBSEC is valuable. I do obviously take Rights of War as well, but this is what I'm thinking. And we'll have a video breaking this down. If you want to know a little bit more about this detachment, I put a link to a video up above my head right now, and that is to our podcast channel. And we talked over this rules and everything in basically our State of 2022 video, which was cool. So check that one out if you want. And if you would subscribe to our podcast, we're very close to 1,000 subscribers on the podcast. We're like 950. So if anyone would consider subscribing, we do put out content sort of every week, every 2 weeks, something like that. Just for your entertainment, nothing too serious. We would appreciate the subscribers. We're trying to get to 1,000. So Arks of Omen detachment, this is what it's looking like. So a lot of flexibility. And in the actual article about the Arks of Omen detachment, which I have here, and this is just you can find this article over on Warhammer Community. They also talk about basically if your detachment is an Imperium detachment, you can include one of the following as an allied detachment. So one Agents of the Imperium, auxiliary support, or patrol detachment. So that would be like your Voidsmen at Arms. That would be like an Inquisitor or an Assassin. You can include one Imperial Knight Super Heavy Auxiliary detachment containing the Free Blades. So I obviously ran them as a tournament recently. I ran 3 of the Melee Knights, not the Helverins, the other ones. But a lot of people have said that the Helverins with Monster Hunter as their trait are very, very useful tools to back up a Blood Angels army. We really struggle for heavy support, and this is one way that you could do it. So running like a detachment of 3 Helverins, they obviously come with OBSEC and they count as 5, so they're very useful. And with Monster Hunter, it means they get +1 to hit against monsters and vehicles, which means if you are using them to target down enemy monsters and vehicles, you are hitting on 2s, which is obviously nice. With each have two 2d3 autocannons, so on average that's about 8 3 damage autocannon shots from each knight. So that's a cool option. As I say, if anyone's got any questions on this, put it down below and we'll jump into it. And then you can also now take a Votann patrol detachment. So if people are thinking Votann are very, very powerful, and I think they are, you could maybe take like that new land fortress, the Hekachonk. I don't know exactly what it's called. I made a video on it a few weeks back. You could take the crazy land fortress, and all you would need to do is maybe take like 1 HQ and 1 troop choice, which you could easily make work as well. So Votann, I don't know if they just want to sell more Votann or they want to put sort of into the lore that the Votann are allied with the Imperium in a way, because I guess when they first came out just a month or 2 ago, they weren't really mentioned as allies of Imperium. Because I remember asking Andrew, I was like, can Votann take like assassins and agents of the Imperium? And he was like, no. So maybe that's something that might happen in the future. But anyway, that is the options with this new detachment. So as soon as we know more, we'll dive into it. There's also a new, basically, heroic support. So use this stratagem before the battle if you're mustering your army. If a detachment would limit you to the number of times a unit can be in a detachment to 1, you can include 2 instead. So, for example, you can only have a single captain in a detachment normally for Space Marines. So now you could pay 1 CP, you could run 2 captains. I know you can upgrade 1 to the Chapter Master. I know you could upgrade 1 to the Death Company if you're Blood Angels. But if you just wanted 2 captains, 2 generic captains, neither of them upgraded, you could do that now by spending 1 CP. So then down at the bottom, they showed some of the new secondaries. Everybody's getting new secondaries in this new Arks of Omen book, and the idea is that you're only going to get 1 secondary. So basically, like if you think of Blood Angels at the moment, we have like Relentless Assault, Blade of Sanguinius, Death from Above. I forget the last one right now, but there's only going to be 1 per faction. So hopefully this is going to help balance the fact that some factions are just miles ahead in terms of secondary scoring. Okay, so that is Arks of Omen. That is coming £17.50. And then finally, if we just jump back to Boarding Party, because I'm excited about Boarding Party. I like competitive play a lot. I am a competitive player by nature, but I also like Space Hulks and I like the slower game modes, and like this is very tactical for me, and I think it's a perfect game mode for the likes of Aggressors and Terminators and the sort of things that, while can be run by Blood Angels, you don't get to play them all that much in competitive play. Centurions maybe even. I guess some people have worked out how to take Centurions into competitive lists. And in Arks of Omen, that was the other thing that they mentioned. The big other thing that they mentioned is that strategic reserves are going to cost 0 CP to put in strategic reserve. I forget where they wrote that down, but basically what that means is that if you had a flyer... yeah, I don't know where they wrote it down, but yeah, here it is. Free stuff. You don't have to spend any CP to put your units into strategic reserves. So maybe now there's a play, or there is plays around units that previously could not be played. Like Centurions were a unit for me that I only have 3 Centurions. I felt like running 3 Centurions across the battlefield, they're probably dead before they get to the enemy. But if I could put them in strategic reserve for no CP and just say, well, I've got 3 Centurions, in turn 3 I'm going to bring them in and I'm going to risk the 8-inch charge with a reroll or something, because I know, like, see when Centurions make a charge in turn 3, I think they get 16 attacks, a 3-man squad. They hit on 3s, so you make like 12 hits. You're strength 10 with +1 to wound, so you pretty much wound on 2s. So you end up having the enemy have to make like, I don't know, about 8 or 9 saves at -4 or -5. I think their drills are -4 normally, so they become -5. Someone could correct me on that, and they're 3 damage. So that Centurion squad is killing like any heavy armor. And remember, they can shoot as well. They got like flamers or bolters or melta guns. So putting them in reserve for nothing and just, I guess, rolling the dice on if they make the charge is probably pretty cool. I like having one unit in strategic reserve. I usually do like a Sanguinary Guard or something, but with the Centurions, that's really good. Okay, finally, let's talk about boarding actions then. Can I blow up this any bigger? Not really. It's not the highest quality photo. I don't know why they don't give higher quality photos. Anyway, right, so boarding actions. This is a pretty cool Blood Angels team here, isn't it? This is a squad of... Let me think. I think this is Incursors based on their backpacks. Yeah, this is Incursors. Okay, I made my Incursors with beak helmets because I'm not a huge fan of these half face masks. Makes sense that they're yellow though, because they are sort of like fast attack, or... I was going to say, I put my Incursor heads yellow as well. They're not fast attack though, they're troops. But then I guess assault troops have yellow helmets. Okay. Alright, so we've heard a lot about Arks of Omen. Taking place in the cramped corridors of drifting space hulks, orbital stations, and other embarked voidcraft, this is a new take on Warhammer 40,000. Sees small armies fighting desperately close combat battles in tight confines, around deadly corners, and through choke point doors. Cool. Okay. So you can use all your existing models, I hope. I imagine you can't use jump troops. Maybe you can. Who knows? Boarding actions use the same rules as 40k. But in these treacherous conditions, many of the rules that you're used to will undergo some vital changes and adaptations. We'll have a look at how we build your armies or boarding patrols in the coming weeks. So for now, we're joined by Rich Butler from the Warhammer Team Studio to go over the fundamentals. Okay, so what does he say? And we've got a cool diagram here. He says, we approach boarding actions with the goal of making minimal amount of changes required to the core rules for the maximum amount of impact and player experience. It was really important that boarding actions truly felt like a distinctive experience to the main game without actually requiring the player to learn a whole boatload of new rules. I like that. I am one of the worst people for learning the rules and keeping them fresh in my head. I just forget things. I think it's just because I'm old. In fact, by streamlining what you do compared to regular Warhammer 40,000, boarding actions is a far leaner game. Okay, so Model A and B are 5 inches apart as the walls cannot be measured through. Okay, so yeah, it's like you're on a spaceship, so you cannot go through the wall. So I guess Model A is 2 inches to here, 1 inch across, and then 2 inches down. Okay. Walls and closed doors are more than just a visible obstacle in boarding actions. When judging distances between models, you have to measure all the way around them. I mean, that's going to be pain because you know what it's like when you're trying to measure around those tight little corners in 40k with your measuring tape. That will be a bit of a pain. No matter how close two miniatures are in a straight line, this may seem natural for movement, but it is also the case when line of sight isn't needed, such as an aura ability or psychic powers. Okay, so sometimes I guess maybe there could be like a psychic power that doesn't need line of sight. Interesting. The rules changes in boarding actions are all about representing the tactical challenge faced by combat forces on a spaceship. For example, how do units interact with doors that can be open or closed? How do inspiring auras interact with sheer walls? How does visibility work when shooting through a packed corridor? Yeah, that's interesting actually. I like the idea of like opening doors and closing doors, and maybe on the map some of them start open. Interesting. So Model A and B are 5 inches apart as the hatchway on the left is closed. Okay, so you cannot measure through. However, the hatchway on the right is open. So how do I open this hatchway? Did they tell you about that? Let's see. The rules force squads to engage with each other in dangerous situations, unable to take pot shots from the safety of another room. In fact, while many kinds of weapons can normally be fired beyond your line of sight, this is expressly forbidden in boarding actions. Many kinds of weapons can be normally fired beyond your line of sight. There's put a star here. What does beyond your line of sight mean? They've said Fire mortar indoors and see where it gets you. Okay, right. So certain weapons can't be fired in certain areas. Let's see. Hatcheries can be opened and closed with an action, so it's important to keep an eye on where they are. Infantry waiting in ambush around a corner might suddenly find themselves within range of deadly abilities when a door swings open. Model B and C are from one unit. Models D and E are from a different unit. When Model A is selected to shoot, it cannot make any ranged attacks against Models D, as it is not possible to draw a line between their bases without passing through Models B or C, which are not part of Models D unit. So in this one, I was going to say, basically, troops obscure fire. So because there's no line of sight, I can't draw 1 millimeter line from anywhere on the space to this space, and this is a different unit, then I cannot shoot this unit. So you could almost, like, if you were an Orc player, you could almost put Gretchen in front and just be like, right, you can't shoot any of my boys. You have to shoot the Gretchen because they're blocking the whole corridor. That's pretty interesting. Likewise, you could put Terminators with Storm Shields up front and just be like, right, you can only shoot my Terminators with Storm Shields because they're blocking the whole corridor. The corridors are often so narrow that two soldiers would struggle to walk side by side, a challenge that's only compounded by the chaotic press of battle. Drawing a bead on your preferred target is nigh impossible with other bodies in the way, so gunners will need to think carefully about their positioning. You can only fire a unit if a straight unimpeded line can be drawn from the shooter's base to the target. Other models will block your shooting, friend or foe. Very interesting. So make sure you don't pack your own troopers into lines of fire. This gives tough units with large bases like Aggressors and Tyrant Guard. They forgot Terminators. Come on, Firstborn Terminators with Storm Shields. A new role as mobile cover for their squishier comrades. So Model A cannot see Model B. Yeah. As it is not possible to draw a line from Model A to B's without going through the wall. Model A can see Model C. As the line can be drawn, but part of Model C is still hidden from Model A by the wall. As such, it will receive the benefits of cover made by the range attack. Okay, so even if it's partially obscured, it's going to get a cover save added to it. Model A can completely see D, so there would be no cover. Interesting. Okay, so you could have like this guy popping around the corner with his gun, so his gun's pointing down the corridor, but he's still in cover. Or he's still getting cover save because they can't draw a line to the whole model's base. Walls and corners and closed doors also provide cover, making choke points a key part of boarding action games. Games will have an exhilarating ebb and flow as armies carefully approach defended locations before violence erupts in a fierce struggle for control. This sounds really cool. This is why I want to get this. And I think this is different from the 40k that we know, but I think I think that innovation is good, and I think that it's good that, like, I've played Kill Team, I've been to Kill Team events, but I think it's better if it's just part of 40k, because like it's not that I don't like Kill Team, I just find it very difficult to find the time to learn all the Kill Team. Like if I was going to go to a Kill Team event, I'd have to put Warhammer 40,000 on the back burner for like 6 months, focus on Kill Team, know all the rules, etc, etc. So if they can just do this using the 40k rules, that sounds way better for me. Okay, Rich says, the small changes add up, and in combination with radically different missions, maps, and limitations, including board patrol list building, players will have a fresh new Warhammer 40,000 experience without needing to learn anything. So Rich, I don't know you, but thank you so much. This sounds great. If you want to come on the channel, Rich, talk to me about it. Let's do it. Just DM me. The new mode also pairs the list. Pairs? The list of available stratagems right down to a handful of key options, initially allowing just command rerolls, counter-offensive, and insane bravery. Later boots will introduce an arsenal for stratagem for each faction, even some factions, starting with Arks of Omen and Angron. So, to begin with, we just have 3 of the basic default stratagems, which is 1, like the command reroll, the interrupt in combat, and the 2 CP don't fail leadership and save bravery. Then they show an example of a couple of stratagems that might be coming. There's plenty more to check out from Overwatch changes. Okay, Overwatch might be interesting this actually. And new actions to mission plans and terrain effects, so be sure to check out the coming weeks and more about Arks of Omen. Okay, so I mean, we're going to need Arks of Omen if we want to play this. We're going to need boarding party terrain if we want to play this. Sounds great though. So I'm excited about boarding party. I'm kind of excited about the new Arks of Omen detachment. I think this will change things up. As soon as we know point cost changes for Marines and what's actually happening with Marines, then, you know, we'll get into it. I'm looking forward to a new season, a new video, whatever you may want to call it. I think it's only going to be good for the game, and I think in 2023 I'm hoping to see more Marine releases. We didn't really see anything, period, Marine-wise, all of 2022. Unfortunately, I'm still not caught up on painting, but I have been painting again, even with my broken arm. So I'll have another couple of streams coming out this week, doing some painting, maybe even building that drop pod. So please drop by and say hello. Thank you to everybody that watched the New Year's Eve stream. That was a blast. Hope you enjoyed it, and wasn't quite as drunk as last year, so I was quite pleased with that, actually. It was still a very good, fun stream, so thanks to everybody that came along and made that awesome. I hope I covered everything that you need to know this week in Warhammer. This Saturday the 7th, 10 AM, set an alarm. Be there. If you want those collector's edition books, you need to be there early. They sell out super fast. If you are going to buy any of the stuff in the UK, please consider using the Element Games link. That really does help me out and support me. I will catch you all as soon as possible, really. I'll be making tactics videos about this stuff as soon as I possibly can. Brothers, it's been a great week. I really enjoyed a bit of time off. I hope you did too. Thanks again for making all the streams that we've done this last week great. I'll see you in the next video. By the blood are we made strong. Peace.